Hello there, this is Big Benedict. We're playing Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition on Dante Must Die difficulty, and we're going through the campaign as Vergil on the hardest difficulty. On turbo mode, I wanted to mention that. We're in the Opera Plaza. I like that because I like listening to opera of a Saturday night. And this is the definitive edition of my guide, although what you're seeing on the screen, the visuals and the frame rate, isn't what I would say is the best representation of this game, because I own both the PC version and the PS4 version, and I'm telling you, having played both, this is the inferior version. It's very slow. The loading times are poorer on this one. You wait longer. The menus are even more sluggish than the PC version, and the PC version, even though it says it locks it at 60 frames per second, I'm not really sure about all the technical things, but it's a smoother experience, much smoother. And if you want to see my computer specifications, it's on my About page, so that's what I'm running. And I'm not saying it's extremely good or anything. It's like a 5-year-old computer, but computers last like 8 years if you take care of them. But I'm just saying, this is the inferior version. But the thing is, you guys, I lamented about this a lot in my other guide. Those idiots who made the PC port, they did not program it so that the mouse disappears / fades away when you press a button on the controller. Because when you press a button on when you start a computer game, normally it'll have the mouse cursor on there, but the second you press a button on the controller, that should disappear, and because it should know that you have a gamepad, you're not using the mouse, and it never goes away. It doesn't go away. And it's like having a bug on your skin. It's like having a blight on the screen. I could not tolerate it. So I had to rebuy this game. So now I own it twice. And I'm not even going to attempt to get a refund on Steam, because I've played this game on the PC and on Steam, and I think I have like 40 hours into it. So you're only allowed to have 2 hours before they give you the refund. Like 2 hours is the cap. Even though I played for almost 3 hours for Arkham Knight, but that game obviously had a lot of issues. But so we're playing the inferior version, but since it doesn't have that blight, and since I can, calm my neuroses in that manner, it's just, that's the way it's gonna have to be. I'm gonna have to settle for this version. I also wanted to dig up my PS4 from the backyard, unearth it, and dust it off and hook it up, because God of War comes out next week, and I'm not trying to get excited for that, honestly, because I pretty much suspect that Chaos Mode will not be unlocked from the beginning, and what I'm really interested in is I'm interested in a lot of extra features and in a lot of extra options in the options menu, but I'm pretty certain they're just going to have it the way it was, and it's going to be a complete letdown. I mean, it's not something that I'm excited for, except that it does have some relevance now that it's coming out again, so I'm excited to play it. I love that game. It's just that I'm not getting my hopes up, because I got my hopes up for this game, and it had that blight with the mouse cursor not fading. And then I got my hopes up for Arkham Knight, and now I can't even play Arkham Knight because I want to play Arkham Knight at 60 frames per second, and I will wait until it's finished. But, when is that going to be? It's already been pulled from Steam for several weeks. But anyway, this is a full guide, and I will be telling you the concentration gauge, how that works, and I'll do so right now. The last time I did this video guide, before it went through the remastering process, I was saying that the concentration gauge doesn't have any information, and it's not given a tutorial, but it actually does in the library. So if you go into the settings, you have to exit into the main menu, though, like where the chapter select screen is, and go to the library, and it'll tell you what the concentration gauge is. It increases your damage output, meaning that you deal stronger attacks. Now, to accrue the concentration gauge, you have to be not taking damage, remaining idle, which is the irony of the whole situation, and doing attacks like the air trick. That's exactly what it says. I mean, not exactly, obviously, but this is an important move down here. I believe it's called it's the Judgment Cut, but it's the highest level of the Judgment Cut. You get your concentration gauge to the 3rd level, which doesn't mean you have to have it all filled out. And I believe, see, we slaughtered these guys, and I thought that all the devil trigger had to be maxed out, but maybe you just have to have enough to have the devil trigger, like the first 3 slots, because that's what just was represented to me on the screen. So what I'm thinking is just the top tier of the concentration gauge and just enough devil trigger to actually just use it, and you'll slaughter enemies that way. And the input is triangle and X, and if you're using the 360 controller, it's Y plus B, and he'll do it. And it seems to me like you get iframes from it, but I kind of suspect that you don't on that. And this is a character who I don't really like too much, and the reason I deleted the guide was because I couldn't beat Kratos sans items, and if I can't do it again, I will also delete the guide again. But I'm going to try my best to maybe bring some, even if I have to, some cheap tactics, because when that guy double triggers at the end, there's not much you can do, because he's a spam happy son of a bitch, and I hate him. I really hate him. But these are the blades, you guys. These guys, whenever you fight these, just say to yourself, at least they're not infused with the Chimera seeds, and at least they're not having turned into a flailer, because at that point, it's completely just luck if you're not going to get hit. I mean, you've got to do like ranged attacks like the drive and the overdrive. And I also want to state that I feel very inferior when I play these games, and I always think to myself, like, if people who are really skilled at this game watch me, they might ridicule me, because quite honestly, I feel that I'm not good at this game. I think that just beating Dante Must Die doesn't mean you're good necessarily. So I'm pretty hard on myself, and I feel that if I use items, that I'm depending on them to compensate for skill that I lack. So what I want to do is just have enough base level skill to beat the game without using the items and depending on them. So I also have a guide if you're new to the channel, if you're finding these. I'll try my absolute best not to delete this guide, but I can't guarantee that any project that I ever start will be finished here. They normally do get finished, and I haven't deleted a project for quite a while. But I have a guide for Legendary Dark Knight mode, and also Nero's campaign. So there being a surfeit of subjects to talk about, I'll invariably miss things and not consider things when I'm talking about this, and have to state things at a later time. But I think just getting most of the basics out of the way in this first video will be good. Now, we are coming up on Burial, but we do have an optional fight coming up. 2 optional fights, I would say. Did I already say that this is kind of an innocuous enemy that I don't really understand why it's in the game in the first place? I may have said that, and the reason I don't know if I said it is because I've done this commentary twice now, and I don't remember what I've said before. I also read on one of the forums that when he sheathes his sword, the Yamato, it serves to launch an enemy if you're doing something very specific, and I don't know what that is. A lot of people, they know a lot more than I do about this game. So what I want these videos to do is kind of bring the community together, as much as, you know, the community of people watching it on YouTube represents, you know, people that like this game, I suppose. And so anyway, the guy has 3 weapons to choose from. He's got Beowulf, which I think are kind of like gauntlets, but not the kind of gauntlets that Kratos has in God of War 3. Just visually speaking, I mean. And he's got the Forced Edge, which when you're doing aerial strikes with the Forced Edge, what he does is just a downward cut. So you can't do aerial strikes with that weapon. So you've got to use the Yamato to launch and then do your aerial strikes. And there's also a pseudo roulette spin. There's a ton of moves. There's also such things as just charges, which I just learned of today. And I don't know too much about them, but I do have the origins of what those are, because I have played Vergil, Gods Must Die, and you had to do the perfect charges on those to succeed. So that's kind of what they are. They're like the just guards in DMC3. But I'm going to skip the Adjudicator, and we are going to face Burial. Fuck, this guy is a bitch. So what I would advise on this guy, I'm not going to be narrating the fight because what I have to do is read some notes that I've written. So the thing you want to do on this guy is build your concentration gauge, and then do the heavy range swords attack, which is right bumper. And I know I'm on the PS4, but I'm still going to be referencing PC controls because, you know, I'm going to be going back to the PC version. So it's right bumper plus back to forward, then X or square. But don't hold the X or square button, just press it, because if you hold it, he does another move entirely. So you do the heavy range swords to stun him, but you only have so long of a stun. So you really have to do the heavy range swords when you're nearby to him so that you don't have to close in distance and waste time during the stun. So once you get him stunned, you'll want to have your concentration gauge filled all the way up or nearly full. It turns from blue. See how it's turning from blue to purple? That's the final phase right there. So you get it in that phase, you stun him, and then you can do a couple of moves. See, I'm trying to do a level 3 charge, but he interrupted me. There is a level 3 charge that exists for the like the straight punch with the Beowulf, but you have to have the concentration gauge filled most of the way up, or indeed all the way up. And it's not even in the moves list, that move, but it's just from a standing position, just the Y hold button. And if you want to, you can do the pseudo real impact moves, which are Beowulf's level 1 and 2 charge. The level 1 charge is called the Rising Dragon. I don't know the moves like off the top of my head. It's just back plus Y hold. And then the level 2 charge is called the Dragon Breaker, and that is a more damage dealer. And then you can distort that by pressing the double trigger during the key frames of the animations. And if you want to know what those key frames are, just type in Real Impact DMC4, and it should be the first video that comes up on YouTube. I don't know the frames. You just have to go by muscle memory and reflexes. But the most powerful thing that you can do is a level 3 charge with the straight punch of the Beowulf. And like I said, you have to have that all the way, your concentration gauge most of the way up. So other than that, you can go to town on this guy with either the Lunar Phase 1 or the Lunar Phase 2, whichever you've purchased. Hopefully you have the level 2 Lunar Phase because it does more damage. And you can just spam that in the air. I mean, if you don't want to bother with all these charges, I also tried the Judgment Cut with the full concentration gauge, and it was hit or miss because sometimes he would just block it and it wouldn't deal him any damage. Other times I got some bars taken off. It's just really inconsistent. And this fight, I'm not really proud of it. I won, and I think I get off a level 3 charge here, but you can't really see how much damage it dealt him because he had less than 1 bar there. So that is the way to take care of that guy. At the very bottom line, just spam the Lunar Phase in the air. He can't do anything about it hardly. And then you can marry that with the concentration gauge added attacks with the damage efficacy turned up, and then use a double trigger for even more hits. So we'll take a look at the clear screen here. Picked up all the orbs. I don't care about score, but it says no items, so I did what I was tasked with doing. Take care.